Hey guys, hey, it's another Monday, and it is the last Monday in this lovely month of January for the lovely year of 2022. That's right, it's going to be no more January days, no more Mondays in 2022, and that sounds amazing as it does sound scary. And we are already through the first month of the new year. But as on point as we always are, we're here with you today in another tremendous episode. I'm trying to think of some adjectives here. 20 episode of Authentic Leadership 101. And I got my lovely co host, Tracy Boreson. What's up, Trace?
Hey, everybody. I'm excited to have this conversation today.
Yes, I'm excited to have this conversation as well. So I definitely want to make sure that we have this conversation. For all you guys that are going to be tuning in to us live, please drop in the comments anything. First of all, where you tuning in from. We love to hear where people are tuning in from and getting this authentic leadership education that we're trying to employ here. And we also want to know what your thoughts are on our topic for this evening. We're going to go through a couple of questions. We want to ask you guys some questions, and we ask you to put it down in the chat because we love interactive, authentic leadership, right? We are learning from each other, and we want this to be an interactive assignment, so to speak. So we want to make sure that you guys get engaged because we're going to talk about it like we talk about it all the time. But we want to hear from you how you think about what we talk about all the time. Right. So, with that being said, for those who are not here today on live, when you catch it on hashtag replay, we do go back in, we do check the comments, and we do respond. We do connect even with those that are first time visitors as well. So, we appreciate them as well. So, phew, I got all that out the way. What's up, Trace? How was your weekend, Trace?
Oh, it was good. So I'm not sure if I talked about this last week, but my sister had a baby a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
So
congrats,
like my whole
congrats.
family is in town on rotation meeting the
Oh,
baby.
okay.
So that's been fun. And there've been lots of families staying at my house. So pros cons.
I was gonna say, is that a good thing or bad thing? Less family staying at the house pretty much is a good thing for me. So
Yeah.
if less of them are here, that means they're somewhere else, if someone else's home, then I can deal with that. That's okay with me. That's all right.
Yeah. Well, and I know like I don't want to be like, "Hey, sister, you just had a baby," and deal with all the relatives also.
Oh wow, yeah,
I'll
I'm,
deal
I'm
with the
dealing with.
relatives.
Yes, I'm dealing with the relatives as well, right? But I think at this point in time, they probably wanted some help. It's been a lot of labor being pushed through, and probably tired, so maybe want as much help as possible at this point. So you
Yeah.
guys are probably doing a great job. Great job.
Yes,
Here
they did.
we in New Jersey, the Northeast. Of course, we had the Nor'easter, Nor'wester, whatever you want to call it. And I was kind of like snowed in the weekend. Uh,
Mm.
Saturday it snowed. I think over the 2 days. Started Friday night about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I think it lasted till sometime Saturday afternoon, late into the afternoon. I think I could say maybe a whole 12 hours of snowing. But we got
Mm.
about 9 to 10 inches. Some places around me was like 12 to 16. So it was a pretty hefty storm. But the funny thing about it is Thursday, I think, or Friday, it's going to be 52 degrees. So all of that snow is just going to be gone, and I guess we have to restart over. But other than that, that's what my weekend was. Just sitting
It's
in by
gonna
the
be a
campfire.
mess.
Yeah, it's going to be a mess with a lot of sloppy, slushy stuff all around. But enough of that with the weather report. What would you do? We're talking about this authentic leadership as always, and we want to take it to a new perspective and asking you guys, what would you do with authentic leadership, and what does that really mean to you? Like, I know we talk about this on numerous occasions because that's just what we do. But we wanted to kick it out the gate in the framework of what you do. Just how important is it, first and foremost? Because we have a lot of people that call themselves leaders, and we know we went through the gamut of this and understanding their role, or not necessarily understanding their role, because they just been in place with that title. But how important is it to you and what you view as authentic leadership? And Trace, how is important? How important is it to you, Trace?
Well, I probably wouldn't do a show called Authentic Leadership 101 if it wasn't important to me.
I didn't
But
think so. I didn't think so.
one of the things that I really want you guys to ask yourselves, so we're going to bring all of these other, we're going to have a whole bunch of questions today. But the main theme we want to continue to drive back to is what would you do? How important is authentic leadership to you? Why is authentic leadership important to you? We're not here to say like, hey, Tracy and Carl, Shawn say that authentic leadership is important, so it probably is, right? Like, we're not, this exercise isn't about us shoulding anything. This is about you guys sharing with us, what is authentic leadership to you? Why is it important? How important is it? I really want to hear some of those things. So David is sharing here, if a leader isn't authentic, then they won't be followed. This is an interesting, these are like my favorite conversations to start to, because like, is that true?
I think
Maybe.
we'll leave that up there. That's a statement.
This is the demonstration for you guys, right? Like, to David, it's authentic leadership is important, because if you're not an authentic leader, then you won't be followed. And if my goal as a leader to be followed, then I need to be authentic. That ranks authentic leadership higher on David's
scale,
ranking scale, right? And for each of us, like, I can think of leaders that I've had who were not authentic, who technically were followed, right? They were the boss. We did things that they told us to do because people were afraid of getting fired. And so this is like an interesting conversation too, on even the concept of like, what does it mean to be followed, right? Because I always think of this when I think of leader as followers. I think of this one young guy that I managed who was he was like our IT manager, and I was in sales and marketing. So it actually made like, I shouldn't have been managing him, but the development team couldn't manage him for whatever reason. So I managed him. And I remember him telling me one day, I just want to be a sheep. I just want someone to tell me what to do, and I will do it. And I want to get a high five when I do it well. And I was like, oh, this is just a very interesting perspective, because it's not at all my perspective, right? There's something in me that is a natural leader, captain of the basketball team, just leader of projects by default, right? Like, some people like that. And some people are followers. And I would say somebody potentially who is just a hardcore sheep, I don't know if they care about authentic leadership, right? Maybe they don't. What I'm trying to demonstrate here, because I agree with you. I actually agree with you, David, that like, in order to actually inspire people to follow you, then there's a level of authenticity that needs to be included in that, in order for inspiration. But it's just, this is why we're talking about these perspectives from each of our own perspectives. Just woo. But our own perspectives teach us why we think it's important, how important it is to us. And again, I say this most episodes, but you guys probably wouldn't be here listening to an Authentic Leadership 101 conversation if you didn't
wasn't concerned
care
about
a little bit about it. And then David is sharing, let's see, followed in the sense of bring their A game. This is, and so to me, this is where we start to connect that to being inspired, right? People, when they're inspired and they feel happy and excited, they bring their best contribution. They bring their A game. There's a lot of people, like, what is it? The last, now the name is escaping me. One of those industry reports that says 70% of people are either hate their job or are disengaged at work.
Yes, something to that. I think it may be higher than 70 since the Great Resignation has already begun.
78% or something ridiculous, right? Like this, it's and again, to me, I think that speaks really heavily to where have we been putting a focus on in terms of our leadership? Have we been putting a focus on butts in seats, or is it about leading people? Right? Butts in seats and leading people are two completely different things. And Tanya is also just sharing that she knows people who just want instruction. And when you're a leader, I mean, actually, I thought it was really easy for me, because I was like, if that is what is going to make you feel like you are contributing your best, hey man, let's do it. Let's go to town. I will give you instructions, and you will do them, and I will high five you, and we will have a great time working together. It's not my preferred way of doing it, but I've also had, and maybe Carl, Shawn, let me know too if you've had, or are you guys are blowing up the comments already. I can't even keep track of it.
Yeah.
For you guys in the comments as well, sometimes there's people, like I remember having a really young employee, just came out of university, and she really wanted to be a strategic leader. And so I was like, okay, great, I'll give you some like projects, right? We'll try some things. And there was like they were all internal projects, right? So if you fail, it's pretty safe, right? We can just redo it and blah blah blah. And every single time she just kept wanting the instruction, right? Like, I just want you to tell me exactly what it is you want me to do. And I'm like, well, this is not really what strategic leaders do, right? So I can do that, but it's not going to improve your skills at being a strategic leader. So you need to decide which one of these things do you want more, because it's going to put you into a discomfort zone in order to do that, right? Anyway, Carl, Shawn, thoughts on that, and then we can
Yeah,
talk about Tanya's comment as well.
yes, I want to talk about it because the importance definitely ranked upon whoever you're asking, right? And that's why we bring this right around and rotate this right back to the perimeter of you do. Because a lot of times when we're being led by individuals, we want to be led a specific way that feels authentic to us. And I think the importance on it, and I think what David implied was the inspiration of a leader, and that is what I can just about say for 90+% of us. We want that leader who's inspiring us to be above and beyond, but we've been so shortchanged by the culture and the dynamic of the corporations and workplaces that we have not gotten that. We've got leaders with titles, and even we do have some, because I've worked with some, and I'm sure you can attest to that as well. That we have some that their perspective of it is just like, I'll be the sheep. I'm gonna stand out. I just want to come in and I want to ruffle feathers. I'm not looking for a promotion. I'm not looking to be a leader, and which is fine because you're always going to have. I mean, you're always going to need some of those worker bees, so to speak, right? You're going to need those ones that just get an assignment, carry an assignment out, fulfill that assignment, and just do what you need them to do. But in the course of that, such as us starting the show, I think I've been in leadership ever since grade school, like just running for student council, those kind of things. So I've always had the propensity to say, okay, I got ideas, I got values, I got stuff. I think people should be like me. Now, at that young age, that's probably the dynamic. I just want people to do what I say, right? But as you get older and you're in these positions, a lot of times people may have wanted to be leaders, but have been beat down so much by the process of unworthy leadership that they say, "This is not worth it. Why don't I just come punch the clock and go home?" So the importance of it weighs on who you're talking to. Because some people, it's not important to them that they have authentic leadership because they're going to do the reports, they're going to do what's due to them, they're going to file, they're going to type, they're going to answer phones, and they're going to go home at 5 o'clock. But you got some that are seeking to do something different, the inspiration of, and that's why I so agree. And that's one of my important, if I could put like a tagline or a list on it, I think I go along the lines of David and saying the fact that the inspiration is what I look for in authentic leadership. So me wanting that, that's normally how I lead. Not the inspiration of the rah rah pep rally kind of thing, but the inspiration of giving others, and I think we can go delve into that too. I don't want to go too far down the line with that, but just giving others that, because we don't have to inspire so much with a loud talk, and we don't have to inspire so much with a pep rally or even, I think they call them huddles now. This corporations have huddles before the work day because come on, we gotta pep you guys up. If people can see your actions, your love, your passion for what you're doing, that's an inspiration in its own self. When they hear how you talk about the job you're doing or involving others, those are passionable things that people can pick up as well as being, man, this guy's authentic. He really believes in what he's doing. Like I want to work for him. I want to be the one he calls on for assignments. So it's all about who you're talking to. What does that define for you? And again, back to what would you do?
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's so like, oh
Yeah, man,
man.
they just like blowing up the comments. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Let's get
I,
back to where was we at there? I got okay.
I think okay.
Let's
So
hit Tanya's
Susan,
first, right?
Yeah, Tanya
Was this
had a
the
good
first one?
point about Simon Sinek and his video about finding your why. And
Mhm.
I want to just briefly touch on this because we could spend a whole lot of time
We
talking
could
about
spend all
finding
our
your
why
why.
trying to find our why.
It's not the easiest exercise to find your why. It's not like you're going to watch the video and then realize what your why is and then be able to make
Just do it.
decisions about that. It will give you a place to start. And figuring out your why, all of the people who I've actually seen who have figured out their why takes some work. Like you
Yeah.
have to keep trying, you have to keep iterating on that. And so, and like Tanya says, it doesn't mean you have to invent something. It doesn't mean you have to be in business for yourself. You don't have to start your own company, right? Like you don't have to do anything in particular. Again, we talk about that a lot in this show. Like it's not that individual checkbox or an individual task is going to be the thing that helps you accomplish these things, but it's about finding, like Tanya says, a cause that excites you. And one of the things that I find really interesting is I believe that in Tanya says something about recalibrating societal understanding later in the comments as well. This idea about how work is just not supposed to be passionate, right? Work is just supposed to be a thing you do during the day, and
Who
then
said that?
well, I think there's a lot of people who believe that, right? Even the past version of Tracy, when I was in my corporate career, I wasn't excited by any of the work that I did. I did work so I could make money to pay for life, right? And I think most people do that and they assume, because then you have years and years of practice of doing that, right? Like just showing up to do a job to get paid. And that's what work becomes to you. And we forget that these are things that we can put together, even in the case where we're working for somebody else.
I'll push that. I'll push this you on that. I'll touch on this so we get back into the comments. Thank you guys so much for giving us some comments. Here, you got my little fingers working here trying to respond and talk. You know, my multitasking is the greatest. I want to touch on something there that I think that a lot of people maybe miss. So I think a lot of people got reignited based upon the pandemic and the situation we're in. Uh, with that, I think it wasn't shown. I don't think because the more people that I've talked to during the course of the pandemic and during the time that we're in now, um, the more people I've talked to, they were excited about starting new things and doing things of which they always had a passion for. But a lot of them had a passion for doing what they were already doing. But the culture of where they were doing it was the drain. So I think when we talk about somebody finding something to be excited for, I know the premise, and for most parts, the premise is okay, get a job because you got bills. Money, job pays the bills, right? But somebody had told me something about paying the bills and doing that, and that wasn't their love. The love was actually the job, but it became that because they had to battle so much with the idiosyncrasies or the diplomacies or the politics of the culture of where they worked at, that it took the joy out of them doing the job they love to do. So therefore, they traded that in. And somebody had told me about this. I was talking on the phone with them. They told me that a job is just, I think I wrote it down, just over broke. So meaning that you got a job, yes, you're just for the J, over for the O, and B for the broke, because you got a paycheck, so you're not broke and you work in something, so you just over the broke thing. And I had to write that down. I told him I was going to steal that, but I had to write that down for the simple fact I've never heard that before. So when you talk about excited and being excited, I don't think 100% sure, and I'm sure that we could probably get a scale of 50-50 on that, probably a little bit more leaning toward that. But I do think people were excited in the particular fields that they went in, or even got excited about the jobs that they were in. But I think the culture kind of like weighed on them. I know it did for me. I'm just speaking on a personal level. I know it did for me, and it got to be not fun doing the job there. So
Well, and there's so much of that too, where like, so for me, I love coaching people. I love helping people. I love solving problems, creating solutions. And in my career, I got to do that a lot of times. But you're right, Carl Shawn, it was so overshadowed
yeah.
by the toxic culture that I wouldn't even go home and remember all the stuff that I did that day.
Or
and
achieved, like he was like,
all the
phew.
impact I made on people, because the impact on me was so toxic. So I think that's definitely an important piece. And another reason why people may or may not think that authentic leadership is important. And I want to quickly go back to Susan's comment
Yes.
there about
We don't go
being
outside the
authentic
script.
makes
Yes.
the leadership role more human, and people can relate to you. And I really loved even just that first sentence of that, Susan, because
Human.
I found that so many people struggle with the concept of authenticity and what is that, and is that me telling everybody all the things all the time? And it's not, right? It's about being human. And sometimes I will say, I'll tell us one specific story to be more human in a specific scenario, and I'll tell a different story to be more human in that scenario, because those two scenarios will differ. And so I wanted to point that out, because I thought that was a really great definition, as well as the fact that it helps people relate to you, right? When you're being real, okay, let's take the word authentic out of it for a minute. When you're being real, people can relate to that, and people can tell as well. One of the things I did want to just kind of poke against here is, we talk about this on the show a lot too, is us being authentic doesn't necessarily mean that someone in return is going to be authentic.
More times than not, they're not.
Yeah. And so we have created a space that makes it more likely for people to be authentic, but we don't know. I like to use the word corporate trauma, right? Like, we don't know what corporate trauma another employee or team member has had in a past experience, or with our boss that we haven't had because we have different values or whatever. We don't know that. And I just want to remind you guys of that, because I feel like as authentic leaders, sometimes we work so hard to create these spaces, and then we can't understand why it's not being reciprocated. Right? And it has nothing to do with you. You are doing what you can, right? And at some point, I can't make another human being do another thing. I can't force you to sit in a chair and be authentic with me, right? Like, that's just not a thing. And so, oh man, this comment makes me angry about how work is no place for emotions.
I got to chime in on this one. I was told that not only at the workplace, but I was told that I just finished up a training maybe last week, and I was taking this guy's training. I don't know if people know Chris Dell, right? He's this like guy from San Francisco that really curates the mind space as far as doing things and being things and keeping things human, keeping it human in the things that we do and the people that we interact with, and the stuff that we do as far as us as being entrepreneurs. Not to lose that connection is vital to us succeeding. The human connection is really, so he teaches a lot about this. So I don't hop in everybody's stuff, and I'm like, I don't hop in a lot of things because I have my thoughts about a lot of things. So I don't hop in a lot of things to risk and screw what I'm thinking about. But he is so on point with this right here. He touches on this, how people have been told in the workplace to not have emotions, and he made his premise, or what he was trying to explain, was that what we've come through now in this age that we've been in, like the Zoom, right? And I was on Zoom, and I don't know if I shared this with you before, Tracy, not, but I was on a Zoom call with a potential client, and we were talking, and I was explaining my services and stuff. We were going through our conversation, and at the point of our getting to the nitty gritty of the conversation, her screen went blank. And I heard a baby in the background, right? So I'm assuming she was holding the baby down where I couldn't see, and the baby tapped and screamed out. So, oh my God, this lady was about to flip out. She was apologizing. She was going all in. I am so sorry. My baby's not feeling well, so I had to hold her. And I was like, man, please, please. I said, we can't disconnect the work and personal. We've been trying that for so many years to do. You know what has happened? Cliques have grown. People have favoritism has grown because we haven't allowed people in general to just have emotions at work. So what do? They pick someone that they can with, or they get someone that they have favoritism with, and they create those and exclude you. So now you cause more problems in the culture. That's already a problem. But he just got to talking about that, and he was saying how much that we really need to have those emotions in the workplace. And of course, I'm not talking about bawling and crying and some of those kind of things, because I have been in the workplace, so I thought it was a little over the top. But having the spot and the place and the culture where people could say, "Oh man, I'm in leadership," but man, it's just hard today.
Mm-hmm.
it's just really hard today. So I just want to talk about that because how wrong, Susan, you're definitely right on that. How wrong.
Well, and the thing that just makes me think about this, right, is we want our leaders to be emotionally intelligent, I think, right?
Yeah, I would
How do
think
you
so.
become emotionally intelligent? By pretending you have no emotions? No, that's not how you
Don't
become
say, right?
emotionally
You don't say.
intelligent, right? Like you have to learn how to process emotions. And if we're trying to take somebody, and there's somewhere up to Tanya and I think Susan were
Wait,
talking about
is
how
this one?
leadership is earned, not learned, or
Oh
learned,
yeah, 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 yeah.
earned, not
No,
earned,
no,
it's
no, no.
learned.
Wait. You guys got me.
It's way better. It's way better
I'm
though.
trying to keep up. Wait, I remember seeing that. I remember. Ah, there we go. I
Right.
think
And it's
Tanya had said it, but Susan was talking about it. So there we go.
right. And so if we are earning it, like what are we earning? What are we trying to, if we're going to teach, let's just say we take somebody right out of business school, right? Say me, X number of years, I can't do the calculation in my head, how long ago that was. And like I wanted to be a leader. I always had leadership in me, right? So what if there was a leadership track that actually taught you about handling your emotions,
Yeah.
processing your emotions, right? Like we're not all capable of doing that when we grow up. Like we're lucky if our parents were really good at processing their emotions and they taught us how to process their emotions. And one of the things I'm trying with Nicholas, my 3-year-old, for those of you who don't know me, is to give him space to practice processing his emotions until he finds things that works. Like when you're angry, hitting is not a way to process our emotions, but we still need to process anger. So let's try something different. If our leaders can't learn how to process emotions by pretending they don't exist. Not only does that help you as a lead, like that doesn't help you as a leader. You're always going to be in that like anxiety, stress, or imposter syndrome, one of those scenarios, because you don't know how to deal with your own emotions, let alone how many people are you responsible for as a leader? You have to handle their emotions too, to some degree, right? Like, again, you're not responsible for their emotions, but if you're trying to create the space where people can process these emotions, then it's like kind of crazy to say no emotions at work. It doesn't make sense, right? There's so many of these structures within the workplace that they just don't make sense, right? And we got to keep poking and prodding them, because that is what helps us be better. Guys, you guys know I don't like saying better. Once you know
Better.
better, do
No better.
better.
No better. Do better. I think that's about the best place that we can put that better term to use. And Gina says something here. Culture is everything. And I think culture goes in as where we go to be everything, and we settle for less than anything because we start putting those things that are really important to us on the back burner for the simple fact of we're looking for compensation for the job that we're doing. And it is so hard, and then it's not, because I come across a scale on both sides of this argument, right? If it even becomes an argument, because you have a lot of people say, well, I put up with it because I got to have a job and I got to pay bills and I got to have a living. Then I have people then I have people that I've talked to say, I'm not standing for not being treated right in the culture I am. And I never could understand the dynamic where we'd have half that would and half that wouldn't. And it stays acceptable, culture stays acceptable in the places that they're in because you got a half that still would. And I
Mhm.
think if we came together as a 100% whole and hold the culture accountable wherever corporation, firm, wherever you work for, then I think culture will actually start changing. But since we still got that 50-50, I may or may not. So your chances of getting things changed around, and that's what it's outside of loving what I do. When you wake up because you're excited for work is because the team I do it with. So then you start, once the culture is changed, then you can start appreciating some of the other things. Oh, I do got a wonderful coworker. You know what? I never knew that because this culture sucked so much and it drained me every day that I didn't realize that I was sitting in the cubicle next to someone who was so fantastic at doing their job. So it is taking our eyes off of what is really could be something innovative, something productive, something with the directive we could be doing to establish ourselves, not only in growing, but in growing the places that we work at, right? But we
Mhm.
can't because the culture is stifling. So how
Yeah.
do we, as the authentic people, I think I always ask this question, right? How we as authentic people get to the point where we pull that other 50% over to show how important the authentic leadership is.
Well, and I think this is interesting, and I want to go back to Alexandria had a question way back about teams, and I think this is related to the conversation we're having right now. It says, do you think leadership skills strategies change when the leader gets to choose their team as opposed to someone who is required or called to lead a team of new people?
Man, I can't find it. I don't know why I can't find it. I
No,
can't read it. I can't read it.
it's probably way back there.
Way back. I'm scrolling.
Anyway.
I'm scrolling. All right, we'll work on that while I look at it.
Anyway, we can answer the question without putting it up on the screen as well.
Yeah.
It's just, this is an important piece of the conversation, specifically from an authentic leader's perspective, because your mindset about this question makes a huge amount of difference. So if you go in as a new leader and you haven't got to choose your team, there it is.
There we go.
If you didn't get to choose your team, you may come in a disempowered state. So we've talked about this before too, where we make assumptions. We make assumptions about the team member. So I'm new. I'm a new leader. Everyone else has been here as a team before. I assume, rightfully or wrongly, and assuming it's just never good. You know what happens when you assume. We assume that they like it as status quo, and I'm a leader and I'm coming in to change things. I'm going to come in and I'm going to do it authentically, and they haven't been doing it authentically before. You don't know that the team isn't hankering for that, right? Yeah. And that mindset of coming in as an influencer of the team when the team already has like a culture, and assuming that somehow you don't, for whatever reason, fit into that already is just a disempowering way to enter the team. Yeah. Being able to enter the team and finding common ground, right? Gina was talking about this last week in her comment about having conversations with her team and knowing things about the individual people, right? Like these are things you can do because you're curious and because you want to help the people. And from the perspective of being an authentic leader, I actually don't think in terms of skills and strategies that it's much different coming in, like building your own team from scratch. Let's just say I'm a new leader. I'm building my own team from scratch. Leader A, leader B, new leader has already got a team in place. I have to learn about all the people anyway. So I'm either learning about them in group meetings, individual one-on-one meetings, blah, blah, or I'm learning about them in interviews. Right? Either way, I'm actually doing the same thing. I just have the responsibility of hiring and coordinating with HR on that side. I have an equal capacity to influence a team that is already in existence. And I'm not saying that like we don't know what's going to happen. It's humans, right? Like it's a whole group of humans, but you might hire some people for a new team that you think might work really well together and then don't, right? Like someone looked great on the resume and faked their way through the interview process, and now you have a super toxic employee you need to get rid of within their probationary period, right? Like you never know. So I would just, to answer that question, and Carl, Shawn, if you want to add anything too, I would just say that the mindset, trying to get to the mindset of I'm an authentic leader. These are the things I do. Again, the title of this episode today is what would you do? These are the things I do to create spaces for authenticity. Those tactics can be used in any space. A new space, a space you've created, a volunteer space, right? In any space.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It from Alexandria, terrific question, and I kind of look at it, I guess, from another perspective, right? I don't want to choose my team, and you could say, okay, why you want to choose your team, right? That would be asinine not to be able to choose the people that you think will formulate an awesome team to work for you. I say that from a standpoint of the familiarity, and I say that from a point of I want to grow, right? And in the essence of me growing, how greater is there to grow a team than when those teams are not assembled by you. Now, me, I look at challenges. So, of course, if you don't want to be challenged in that situation, or you want to bring your team in and have everything in a format of everybody knows how you work, what's the ultimate benefit to that? Is that one dynamic team within this corporation just up and above, blowing everybody else out the water, and then they see how this is done? Or can this be emulated by bringing a bunch of people together that has no relationship with each other? I think from a visual, that's more impactful. And I'll tell you why. Because everybody's in there you haven't bought. So you may have bought the team in a dynamic of the 5 or 6 or 7, but however large scale your team is, right? Into this corporation, or unless your team is just everything. If you bought it into this corporation, you bought your team in and you say, oh, these are the ones I handpicked right here, right? So you got a power squad, but you got other peoples that are not maybe capable or haven't been given the opportunity to shine because of culture. So now I come in as one just saying, hey, I'm seeing the lightest and the brightest of who's already here. I'm already acknowledging the value that you have because I'm including you into this next step or this next level that we're preparing to take. So I think, just from my point of view, if you have that change, I don't think that it changes a leader if they get to choose their team. I think the ultimate criteria what we're looking for is someone to lead people, period, and therefore not kind of like what they call it when the dice just roll craps all the time, not loading the dice, so to speak, with your own players, and that's just how I look at it because I want to cultivate relationships that'll probably last after I built that and left that. So now I'm comfortable with how that works because if you chose your team and you're the leader, oh man, it's like Tom Brady. He's about to retire. So now you got a lot of people talking about, I don't want to play for the Bucks no more. Everybody gonna leave with you, right? That's just my
Well,
example.
Gronk is going to leave for sure.
Yeah.
He was
Gronk-
already retired.
Gronk, definitely. But yes, Alexander, I appreciate that question. I love the top. We got a couple other questions. Oh my God, this is
Yeah, and Zoraida farther down is asking
I'm
about
going to get hers too.
yeah.
So I was reading it. Yes. Oh no, not that
Yeah,
one.
how do you
That's
suggest
what
someone
that's what I replied. Wait. No, no. Yeah, that's it. Leadership. Oh no. Wait. You got so many guys. I'm loving
you guys
it.
are just
I'm loving it. Here we go.
Yeah. How do you suggest someone change that mindset? And so this is the most important thing for anybody, for any kind of mindset change. The first thing is to notice when you feel disempowered because of something that you're thinking. So that is a practice in itself, right? Before we can change our mindset, we have to be able to realize what is happening in real time. And this is why I love this question. What would you do, right? Most of the time where I was feeling inauthentic, we're talking about authentic leadership. So when I was feeling inauthentic, some of the words that would go through my head is, that's not what I would do. And so, like, if I'm in a job and someone's making me do a thing and that's not what I would do, if it was really far away from something I would do, I would put my foot down. And we've talked about this in past episodes. But a lot of times we just do things because we're not that opposed to it, but it's not what we would do, right? So in those moments where you feel like that's not what I would do, what would you do? And sometimes, I think I talk about this most episodes, sometimes we're wrong, right? Like we guess what would we do and we actually try it and then that doesn't feel good either. No, we have to try something else. But an authentic leadership, changing your mindset, right? All of these things are iterative processes. We have to try to do it. And the first thing that we need to do is notice when we want to try something different. Right? So I like, and people like different words. So you guys try on different things. This feels good. This feels bad. This feels authentic. This feels inauthentic. I like using the words empowered and disempowered. So if I feel like a thought that I'm having disempowers me, I try to, for one, I like to investigate, why am I thinking that? Is that something society taught me? Is that something my parents did? Is that something business school taught me? Like, why do I think that? Because it's not making me feel good. And what else could I do instead? Right? So, for example, if you're a new leader coming into a team and this team has been around for a long time, and you're a new leader coming in, especially if you're a young leader, because a lot of times the young leaders come in and you're like, well, I'm managing people who are like 20 years older than me, and it's like really uncomfortable. Is it really uncomfortable? Like, for one, you don't know that it's uncomfortable for the team. You assume it's comfortable for the team.
So it is.
We already talked about that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Don't do that.
we don't want to assume. So if I'm thinking that thought that I'm not going to be able to manage somebody who's older than me, does that empower you or does that disempower you? If it disempowers you, just take a minute. Take a minute to reflect on that. Why am I thinking that? Is that actually my thought? Is that something that I think comes from society somewhere? Like, where does it come from? And then then you have the ability to choose. So the reason why, even just that noticing what your mindset is, that's the crux point. Because when you notice that, you have the ability to do what you always did, think the thoughts you always thought, which is fine, or you have the ability to choose something different. And all of our choices aren't going to be right? Like, we're humans. We don't all make good choices all the time. Let's be honest. And as a leader, this is equally important, right? But I want to jump back to Tanya's comment about the Ragtag Team. And it also makes me think of that movie Moneyball, where they had like put together the team on like a way no one else had ever put together a team, right? And everybody was like, no, it'll never work. Right? And they're like, no, it's gonna work. And then it totally worked. Right? Like, that's a leader being like, this is what I believe, and this kid, I believe in this kid, and everyone is trying to tell me that I'm crazy, and I believe in what we're doing here, and I'm gonna make it work. That's him being authentic, right? And another manager or another coach might have just been like, you're crazy, we're not doing that. But he was doing things that felt authentic to him. And this Ragtag Team, I'm sure, was doing the same thing, right? Like, they're just in it together to achieve a thing. They're aligned on the goal. They're aligned on the values of how you're going to achieve that goal. And then we get to do those things, and people get to have a good time. People get to have a good time doing it, right? That's, again, when people like coming to work. And they may seem, even the phrase Ragtag Team is interesting to me, because my guess is that there were a lot of things that those people in that Ragtag Team had in common. And they were put together strategically that way. But other people don't see it, right? And it's not being authentic isn't about proving to someone else why you do a thing, right? Or it's about you doing what feels right for you, and then giving yourself the grace when something you tried did not work out the way you had planned.
Yeah, I think sometimes we get lost, and we go back to this, which is my paradigm here. Dictionary words, right? Understanding, right? What is our understanding of? And that's why I fight against the notion. Not against the notion. I'm not trying to change the culture of what definitions mean. I don't think that's never been my my goal, but it has been my goal to have us retrain our mind of thinking the narrative and application of words. So, with that being said, if I'm, it's everyone's authentic leadership meaning is different. Then why do we continue to search for it in the essence of seeing it, right? Because everyone's is different, right? It's just like one changing out the next because everybody's is. So if I'm looking at it and saying that this is what I think it is to me, and you and I are in the same department, and you saying what you think it is to you, I think this is such the discombobulated understanding and message that we're receiving by people who claim to be authentic, right? Because there's no one way to nail down who's authentic. But there is one way to narrow the gap into that and to put that in a funnel of saying you continually, consistently doing the things that you do makes you authentic. So authentic to me, and anybody can want to chime in on that, let me know. Because I think authentic to me creates consistency in how you are. So I, as an application specialist, look at it as applying the word and the meaning to me that I know we say quote unquote real, right, man? You ain't real, man. You ain't authentic. You ain't real. Okay, what is real to you? Because in my neck of the woods, growing up in the hood of Chicago, real to me was like, don't take no crap. Like, and I've had some guys that's on the north side of Chicago, and Chicagoans out there that run with those softy crowds. They would say to me, they think of authentic would just be, guy, you just got to tell the truth. So I mean, but it's two different it's two different forms of facets of how we're seeing this. So what would you do in the essence of you carrying on that authenticness? Because if I see this and I see you on a consistent basis doing the same things you do, or whether or not your words are matching your actions, to me that produces some authentic, right? So you have all of these ones that say do as I say, not as I do. How can that be authentic leadership to me? Right? That's the same as a parent telling the kid don't go touch the fireplace, and then they go over there and touch the fireplace without any instruction, without understanding. You know what I mean? So when we look at it from the authentic standpoint, if I see you consistently doing this and this is how you are, and your words are matching your actions, then I think you're authentic. I don't have to visualize this great big, like I don't have to say, oh man, you authentic because you Thor, right? I love it. I love it. You know, you Thor, you powerful, you got a majestic voice, you talk thunderous, you know, you lead with your shoulders up high. I don't need to see all the visuals. I just need to see you come in with the description of what you're doing, saying that and doing that. And if I see you do that on a consistent basis, you're automatically authentic leader of me because you're doing what you say, and what you say is matching what you do. That's
Yeah.
just that's,
Oh man. Okay, I have two things I want to say on that.
thank you,
For
thank
one,
you, thank
I'm
you,
going to
Zaretta.
limit
Thank
it to
you,
just
thank you,
two
thank you.
because all good stuff. This is why this concept of what would you do is important for us to remember as leaders too, because it's not about us figuring out what we would do. Like, we don't have decision making power in all places at all times, right? When we create a space where people know that they're safe to do what they would do, that doesn't mean that our employees should do exactly what we do either. It's about them being able to do what they would do and me being able to do what I would do. I did this post last week about the golden rule of do unto others as you would have them do unto you, which I consider a basic human principle. And a lot of people came back with the concept of the platinum rule, which is do unto others as they would do unto themselves, which is also complex because if you haven't done any self-awareness, you don't know how you actually want to do unto yourself in a rational way or conscious way. But it's not me doing me, isn't what it looks like for Shawn to do Shawn, or what Tanya to do Tanya, or Zoraida to do Zoraida, or all of you guys to do you, right? And this was the other thing. It's like Tanya's in my brain. It's kind of weird.
No, but this is because I commented back in there to her with that, because that is definitely a key to what you look at, right?
Yeah.
But I commented it back in there to that because you can't fake.
And that's true. At some
all you
point,
got to do is keep watching them because
someone will show themselves.
They will show themselves.
But that was the other thing I wanted to mention is that if you're a focus or an intention on being authentic versus an intention of being consistent are two different things. So can you reveal authenticity through consistency?
Absolutely.
Yes, you can. And if your focus is just on being consistent, which is a huge problem in the online space, right? Like so many people are just talking about show up, be consistent, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, I just had this conversation using my thoughts in my head. That's why we like this, right?
I know. This is why we have a show.
Yes.
But Tanya's right. Like people are consistent about faking it. Right. Yeah. And we talked about this last week because I had that guy that I unfollowed.
Yes.
Because he just told everybody that he was consistently faking it. And I was like, and the fact that you're consistently faking it and telling people you're authentic and then telling people that you're consistently faking it, it's just makes me so angry on so many levels. And we're going to run out of time if I go off on a tangent on that again. You guys can watch last week's episode. But this is important, right? It's not about just being consistent to be consistent. It's the point that Shawn is making is that when we are trying to be ourselves, to do you, like I always say, right? When your intention is to do that, You have to give yourself permission. I will give you permission, but you have to give yourself permission. If you will, right? Like the real you shows up. I talk to like all of my clients. Like I'm a personal branding coach for those of you who don't know. And so people will always, their true self will always come through. Your values, your core beliefs, all of these things like bubble under the surface. And there's an opportunity for you to be intentional about showing those things, making decisions using your values, using your core beliefs, and creating goals and all of those things off of that. And even if you're not, even if you are going to work and you are trying as hard as you can to hide your personality, at some point it will show up. At some point, your boss will ask you to do a thing, and it's so far away from who you are as a person that you have to say no. Again, we talked about that a bunch last week. This happens, right? Sometimes you'll just be like having a conversation. I don't know how much this happens anymore, but like with your coworkers at lunch. I remember having this one conversation about roller coasters. And then all of a sudden I was like revealing how I actually like I've had 5 concussions, and so I black out on roller coasters, can't ride on roller coasters. And one of the other developers said the same thing. And I was like, oh, wow, we get to be concussion buddies. And like, I never would have known that otherwise, right? So there's scenarios where the real you will bubble up because you feel safe or because your values are pushed in completely the different wrong direction, right? That's what happens. And so that's what I believe that's what you're speaking to, Carl, Shawn, when you talk about the consistency. Is like it will pop up even if you're trying so hard.
Because I took the term and I took the term, and it's definitely I appreciate that Tanya, and I just was bringing it to the forefront because I'm one that the consistency to me is tied to it. You can show authenticity through being consistent, definitely, because you can get a pattern, and that's what people know you by. That's actually your character when you're consistently being in something. Someone can depend on you. All of those things are building up the individual for being authentic, right? When you look at it in the terminology of a circumference of everything that involves that. But I highlight that portion of it because yes, you can be consistent for a period of time. It goes back to like my mom used to tell me, truth don't lie. So regardless of how many times you tell the truth will remain the same because it's the truth. So that's why I always look at things where people say I can fake it till I make it or whatever. It's like no, you won't make it. You're just faking it. So stop.
Well, you might make the
I
end
mean, like
goal of
the
your fake,
ultimate.
but then like,
Yeah, like
what
but you
was the
don't.
point?
Right. So that I mean, so you might make like certain things that you have planned, certain plateaus that you thought that you would get to. But
Mhm.
my core in the long game is that eventually you'll be found out, and it's not even really the long game nowadays because people can spot the hypocrisy from the door. So it's not like you're really fooling anybody with that. You might have some that ride the train, but they probably riding that train just to see how long it's riding or how
Yeah.
long you gonna ride. I think I said that before on our beginning of this show. I had a gentleman that watched every show I did for over a year during the pandemic. He watched every show. He got all my posts. I never saw anything to this. I never saw his name or anything. This was just he DM'd me after over a year of watching my content and the things that I talked about. And he was like, I love your content. I love your content, man. You just speak truth all the time. And I'm like, oh, wow, look at this guy. So when people tell me that in a DM, I go try to surf through to see what connected with them, right? That's just how I work. And I could not find this guy's name anywhere. Anyway, I scrolled through my posts. I looked at videos I did. I looked at shows I did. I did this for about 2 or 3 days and I was trying to find this guy's info. I was like, man, this guy watched me for a year and he ain't even made a comment. You gotta be crazy. So I went back to him and crazy in a nice way. I went back to him and I said, wow, man, that's amazing. I really appreciate that my stuff resonated with you. But like what resonated with you the most? Because I didn't see, like I didn't see anything that you commented on. So I wanted this time, let's hop on the Zoom, let's chat, see what resonates with you. So he didn't respond back to me that day. The next day he responded back to me. He said I didn't comment on anything. He said, I watched you for over a year because the subject you were talking about, vulnerability. He said, I was just waiting for you to change your topic and how you talked about it. He said, I was just waiting to see if you was going to carry that all the way. And I said, carry it? I was confused. to the fact. But his point was saying that I was waiting for you to turn. I was waiting for you to for what you were saying and what you were telling people and how you were leading people. He said I was waiting for you that not to be you. And at first, my first thought was like, "Yo, that's pretty petty, man." But then I thought about it. That's just how people are watching you. Not, I mean, that was me as an example, but I'm just saying all of us when we're in these leader spaces, right? All us that say we are these experts in this, right? People are watching you, and you don't know who's because they're not in the comment. Because I was looking for this guy for real. I was looking for his name somewhere, and he told me, "No, I wasn't there." He said, "I was waiting for you to change your story. I was waiting for you to stop talking about it the way you did." And he said, "I had to finally DM you because I see that that's who you were." So that's what I mean when I say that it creates that authentic, because what it does is that someone can see the development of, you may start out that way like Tracy did with the guy with 150,000. He may have got up to 1 million, but somebody along the ride was like, "Nah, this dude ain't all what he's cracked up to be. I'm just hang out and check it out, and I'm gonna be there for the downfall." That's what I meant by that. So make a long story short.
Well, and
I'll make a
yeah, and
short
I want
story
to
long.
just address because I realize we're running out of time
Oh,
here for today.
this conversation was so good. Thank you
I know.
guys.
But I just want to address
Zareta?
Zoraita's
Zareta? Is it Zareta?
questions here. Just what's your personal mission behind it? Who is this for? Them, you, and or both? And it, again, like I really want you guys to start when you think these things, right? Like Zoraita, there's a reason why you ask these questions. There's an answer you have to these questions, and some people's answer is going to be different, right? So me as an authentic leader, I believe that leading is for the other people, me kind of at the end of the day, because like it makes me feel good. And we accomplish things, but quite honestly, the goal is for other people, like to take care of the people. And so like that's what it is for me. It's more about them. It's a little bit about me. Other people will have grown up in a family or have had previous work environments where it's critical for their survival for it to be about them. Right. And so it's just this really interesting, again, from the leadership perspective, to be able to say, this is how I would do it. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it wrong. It makes it my way. It makes it right for me, but that doesn't make it right in the grand scheme of things. And when we have the ability to show up and understand other people from that perspective, being like, wow, I can see why leadership to you is all about you. I can see that. And here's why leadership is all about them to me. Right. And maybe between the two of us, we can figure out this way for it to be both and to work for both of us. Because otherwise, I'm just being like, what I think is right. And you guys should think what I think. And that's again, gets us away from that question of what would you do? And it's been like one of the most empowering questions that I, as a leader, have been able to ask other people and create a space where they can actually answer. They feel safe answering the question, what would they do? Because they know that you're not going to judge them. You know that it's about people being people, looking for new solutions, innovating, being creative, right? There's so many ways. Like what I don't want to happen is like we come away from this episode being like, this is Tracy's definition of authentic leadership, and this is what we all have to do. Right?
How dare you, Tracy? How dare you?
Right. Which is why we titled this episode the way we did, about what would you do? And you can learn, right? Learn from us. We have experience. Other people who have shared their comments have lots of experience, right? And thank you to everybody because there's such wonderful conversation happening today. But you can learn, you can try things on, right? But at the end of the day, it's not about doing anything that you wouldn't do. So if there's anything you guys take away from this conversation and any of our conversations,
don't do what Tracy did. No,
yeah, don't do what I would do unless you're me, right? Like, do what you would do and try it on until you find those things that feel right when you do them. And if you try a thing that feels wrong, forgive yourself. Maybe we'll do an episode about that at some point, about forgiving ourselves when we mean to show up as an authentic leader, but we don't. We talked about failing forward last week.
We did talk about failing forward, but that's what you're talking about is another dynamic that we can really go on. We can really go on and talk about as well.
Yeah. So with that, Carl, Shawn, and I are heading over
headed
to
over.
the Authentic Leadership Mastermind. So for those of
Yes.
you who are joining us for the first time today, if you'd like to
Mastermind.
learn more about the mastermind, me and Carl, Shawn, and Tara Argo and
Tara
other authentic
Argo.
leaders who may
Yes.
or may not be here today, I'm not sure, in the comments. She's probably actually in the mastermind waiting for us.
Yeah, just hanging out,
Because
chilling.
we can't finish this on time. But if you guys are looking for a space to get in this conversation, to explore some things about what authentic leadership is for you, challenges that you're having, wins that you're having, hiring new team members, right? You're going into a new team and that's something that's new for you. You're looking for a place where you can actively have conversations about these mindset shifts on how to look at some things differently so they can be more empowering for you as a leader. This is the place. It is available to you as part of the Impact membership with Your Business Peeps. It is a weekly mastermind, happens after this. I'm sure Carl, Shawn will post the link. And if you guys want to come, we want to make sure that it's the right fit for everybody. So if you want to come and test it out for a sneak peek, let me know, let Carl, Shawn know. We'll make sure that you guys have a link to come and test out one for free on us. It's just a conversation like this about authentic leadership to specifically support you in your authentic leadership journey. And it happens right after this session every Monday, except probably on holiday Mondays.
On holiday Mondays, but
yeah.
other than that, we here, right? We here. We don't have nothing to do. We authentic every day of the week, but we really talk about it on Monday. So we want you guys to come and celebrate with us again.
Kick off your week strong in the authentic leadership conversation because you have no idea what's going to happen the rest of the week.
And you do not, and you want to be well prepared. We thank everybody that has come out. This has been one of the fastest hours that we've ever zoomed through. The conversations were fire. We appreciate all you guys. Oh, there comes Johnny Come Lately right there. Johnny Come Lately there. Yes. We will discuss forgiveness. We've forgiven you for giving us a comment at the hour point there, Tara.
So Tara is not in the Zoom room waiting. None of us are there, but we will be there.
We will be there.
For any of the people who are in the mastermind who are wondering where we are, we're all here still.
Yes, we'll all stay here. But we thank you guys for coming out. Thank you. We'll be back again on Monday for another episode of Authentic Leadership 101 because class is in session. We appreciate all you guys that came in, joined the discussion, gave us comments. We appreciate you all. Thank you for showing up. Take this authentic leadership, apply it to yourself, and just ask yourself the simple question: what would I do? What would I do? So there we go, guys. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and see you next week.
See you next time.
Yeah, see you next time. We leaving. See you next time.